All right, I'd like to isolate a couple more examples, a couple more formulas for you. So I picked a volume formula, V equals pi r squared h. You might recognize that as the volume of a cylinder. And I've also looked at the same formula that we have on this slide, A equals pi r squared. But what if you're asked not to find the r squared, but to just find the r? What's the extra step to do that? Because we found r squared. Let's actually start with this one. I know it's on the far side here. So what you saw on the slide was we took A equals pi r squared and we divided by pi. Because pi divided by pi is 1. And we got the answer that you see on the slide. Okay. Well, what if I wanted to get r? How do I get from r squared to r? Well, the opposite of squaring something is to take the square root of something. Right? So to get r, I would actually have to take the square root of this. So it would be the square root of A over pi. And why that is, right, is because whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. So to get rid of the r squared and make it r, I have to take the square root. Right? And we'll look a little more at that when we look at exponents. But if I take the square root on one side, I must take the square root on the other side. Right? So the square root of r squared is r, and when we get into exponents we'll look at that a little more. And the square root of a over pi was just the square root of a over pi. So that's how we would rearrange it for r. Okay. Let's look at this one if we want to find h. Now this one looks more complicated because we've got v equals pi r squared h, okay, which is very similar to this one. Notice the area formula becomes volume when we add one more variable. So then we'll have to multiply by h. So I picked these because I wanted to show the connection between area of a circle and volume of a cylinder. Right? It's just a multiplication of h. But what if we wanted to find h? Well, we'd start with our formula. Right? And then we would divide. Well, we want to leave h by itself. So if I divide it by pi r squared, well, pi divided by pi is 1. R squared divided by r squared is 1. That would really just leave me 1h here. But on the other side, remember, whatever you do on one side, you got to do on the other. We got to divide by pi r squared over here as well. Okay, leaving me with h equals volume over pi r squared. Okay, they don't get really neat. It's really just rearranging the formulas. But it's something I want to show you a couple more examples of what we have on this slide.